Today's episode's brought to you by a house with 4 bathrooms, and that's not even including my investments.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. How are you doing?
I am.
You had a rough week. You had a rough week.
Nope. I don't even know what you're talking about. You've said it before, and I'll reiterate it here because I've always believed this, no matter what I may have said in the past. I don't care about stage playoffs. They mean nothing towards the end of the season playoffs. Both of my teams are still looking great. They're still in a great position, and they're both still good teams. I don't care what the stage play. I didn't even watch them. Nope. Didn't even look at the stage playoffs. Didn't even turn them on. I didn't even turn on ABC and watch them on real TV.
Well, viewers, I apologize for giving him this out. I should have never done this. It's completely my fault.
Yep. No. Yeah. I mean, well, we'll talk about it. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping beforehand. Let you know what's going on in the High Noon Productions world as of this week. Blackwatch Report, of course, always coming in strong, talking about all of the Tier 2, Tier 3 stuff, contenders, and elsewhere. Check them out, Blackwatch Report on Twitter and their own podcast feed. Make sure to show them some love. Look them up on Twitter, find them, get them in there. If you want to know you want to know who's going to be good in the upcoming years, follow Blackwatch Report because they had to feed us all this contenders information that we don't know. All these players, Kyle Wynn and Thornrain assure us that these players are good, and we go, and then they end up popping off, and we go, okay, you were right. No episode of Foul Play last week, but we've got a spicy one coming in this week. And if you're listening live, we're actually going to be doing the show Foul Play right after this show, so make sure to check that out. We're going to be live drafting greatest video game franchises of all time, as well as the other normal show stuff. But we're going to be doing a live draft of the greatest video game franchises of all time.
Little extra fun for the stage break that we have, the stage 1 break.
Yes. And Around the Payload was back last week with a spicy banger. Make sure you check that one out.
I don't want to talk about it.
We may or may not, Deathblow may or may not have taken a page out of NYXL's.
I netted so hard.
Yes, watch me whiff is exactly what Deathblow did. But that's always good. We did have a brand new patron here that, of course, is Shrug Off at the whopping $10 level. Shrug. Huge shout-outs to Shrug. I'm also pretty sure Twitch sub as well, longtime Twitch sub as well, so huge shout outs to Shrug Off. Thank you so much for the support. If you guys do want to support us as well, head over to patreon.com/High Noon Podcast. And that's actually going to lead me into a classic in esports fashion, an announcement of an announcement, in getting some a lot of positive feedback about different things about the shows and what people like, what people really like, what people message me about on an almost weekly basis. I won't give anything away here, but we are, Deathblow and I have talked about some format changes going into stage 2 and beyond for the shows, just kind of switching up how we do some of the shows and maybe the frequency of some of them, or really just kind of moving things around. We're going to be playing around with some format changes, so keep an eye out for that. And with that, I'm also going to be playing around with revamping how what we do with the patrons, because right now we appreciate everything that comes in, but I feel personally that I'm not doing enough for you guys as patrons. So
you gotta update it. It's been a bit.
It's been quite a while, so we're going to be updating that. So if you guys have any suggestions, always the show suggestions text chat in the Discord. We read all of that, so we can't necessarily do everything that gets suggested, but we do read that and take it into great consideration. So any suggestions you've got there, please throw them in there. But before we move on, Deathblow, anything fun and exciting happened for you this week?
I participated in Open Division for the first week this week. Yes. And some old teammates had 2 people not able to make it for their matchup. So they asked me to play flex support. So I played Reinhardt for them. It was honestly, it was really interesting because it was the live patch and it was no Baptiste. So it was this kind of weird half meta that nobody is really ever going to play in that we kind of had to participate in. And it gave me some really interesting insights into kind of what was good, what was bad. Hard to get too much real, firm analysis out of it. They didn't take a point from us at any point during it. So we just kind of were able to do what we wanted to do. So, but you just still, even still, right? Like, it felt bad to play Reinhardt compared to what it did this past meta. It felt much better to play Hammond and Orisa in the main tank spot. We had a lot of really good success with some bunker compositions. We did some heavy DPS, Hammond dive. It just kind of fit what we had available with the 2 subs and things like that. And I've gotten passable on Hammond at least. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun, really interesting, and kind of an almost look at what the meta will be for stage 2. And we all know how just great my track record is at predicting those things. So I'm sure that'll be super insightful.
Yeah, that's always interesting with these new patches, especially how we're like, oh, McCree's dead. Oh wait, no, he's still just busted. So I guess we'll see. Good to hear that. For me, didn't really do anything too crazy. Played some more Smash Bros. Like I usually do. I finished a platformer game that I've been playing for a while, Hollow Knight. It's on Steam and the Switch. If you guys are looking for a Metroidvania style like platformer game, this is a really good modern iteration of that. But
what was that name again, Blevins?
Hollow Knight. Yeah. Go. You know what? Go ahead and take it.
As I use my chopstick
straw
to pretend to write down
straw to write something on a menu. Yeah, no, it's a good game. It's a very good game. In fact, maybe even the best game of all time. I'm just putting that out there. No, but it actually was very good. So if you like that style of game, definitely check that out. But let's move on. And I think this actually might be. Oh no! Oh my God! Did I take the sound off the soundboard?
Now you have to do it.
That's fine. For the first time this stage, we have a brand new Overwatch Today meme of the week. There you go. We get the live reading. We had a brand new spicy copy pasta and I guess I'll read it first. This copy pasta goes as far as follows. Sorry, bud. I don't have time to be in a little fictional world like you do. I'll have you know that I make over 6 figures a year and live in a house with 4 bathrooms, and that's not even including my investments. Deathblade, you want to give a little bit of background to where this came from and what in the world is going on here?
So part of the stage playoffs this weekend was Overwatch League being on ABC, just major network television, really giving us some good exposure to the masses. With that, always brings some phenomenal enjoyment for us esports fans by the form of Facebook and Twitter messages and things like that. This particular one, I think, was especially funny because it started out as just somebody trolling and like pretending to be one of those guys, like it was an esports fan. So this one was really, really funny, but it was just kind of one of those. And somebody's like, man, you might actually want to like check it out and give it a look. Like it's kind of a lot like sports. And that was his reply to the very reasoned and respectful reply that he got. And it just kind of blew up and got everybody's attention. And you had like half like casters and things like nobody knew it was a G.O.A.T, right? The guy is not like a known quantity or anything. It just took a little while. People looked into his followers or whatever and figured out that he probably is just an esports fan. But yeah, so just a really, really funny conversation that happened. It was like a spoof or a satirical whatever of a lot of the conversations and tweets that were going on. And this was really great. And there was a couple other ones. Honestly, even if you'd would get mad by them, just force yourself not to respond or get the Malcolm in the middle, the future is now old man GIF ready, and just don't directly engage anybody with it, because I don't think that helps anybody. No. But there was some where one guy posted about it like, I can't believe I'm watching video games on TV right now, and then it became like really fast, like, wait a minute, this is getting kind of intense, like I can almost see it, and by the end he's like, I'm in, let's do this. Like, I want, you know, and that's so great to see. Honestly, it was because it doesn't matter what the people that just, it's different, so I, you know, I refuse to accept it crowd, they're always going to be that way. They're called laggards and late adopters. And they'll come in time once it's mainstream already, but it's great to get those kind of early adopters, or those people with an open mind that might check it out for the first time. And honestly, props to everybody involved in the finals for the stage playoffs. That was a phenomenal match of Overwatch, and it was done on network television, and it gave us a great showcase to show people what Overwatch League can be. I think everything about the stage playoffs, and I'm not a stage playoff guy, I thought was great this weekend. So yeah, check out that stuff, even if you're like me and it kind of upsets you a little bit. I was like searching around on Facebook for some funny ones, and but yeah, it was great to see. So thanks to the meme lord who came up with our new copy pasta. Even though it was a meme, we're going to embrace it. It's ours now.
Yes, it is, in fact, ours now. I got a text from my dad saying, are you watching Overwatch League on Channel 8 or whatever it was right now? And I go, yes. And he met his next message is, are you going to be on it? I go, no. But I know people that are on it right now. I'm like, I know Hexagrams and Philly Fusion president sent me shoes because I made it for the finals. True.
My mom saw me on TV when we were in New York for the finals.
Technically true is the best kind of true, as Hexagrams might say.
Teeny tiny.
Which is a line you don't normally hear.
No.
But I'm actually interested to ask him about it because he was watching it with his friend. He was like, "Yeah, we're watching it right now." So and then of course I said a bunch of stuff, and I haven't heard back from him, of course, because Dad.
He's googling all those words you used.
Oh God, he can't use a Google. What is a Google? You're giving him way too much credit about this, but I just want to. I'm legitimately curious how someone who has no knowledge of it and is not in any way into modern gaming, with the exception of his stupid Simpsons games on his iPad, I'm wondering what he thought of watching an event that's basically mirroring a sporting event. And he is what they would call a sports. So
in the words of my parents who watched a little bit, I don't understand how anybody's supposed to know what's going on.
Right, I'm interested to see it, because like that's got to be a big concern for Overwatch League. Like, hey, we're on ABC, we have a goal.
I wish I could get them to tune in for like the beginning of the broadcast, because they know that's a thing, right? And they go through here's what Overwatch is, here's how you win, here's the format, and like they just miss that and tune in when.
But here's the thing about, it's not on the fans to watch that. It's on Overwatch League to provide a method for those people to, when they do tune in, to have something. Now, I don't know what are they expecting people who tune in randomly in the middle of a match to be able to pick it up? I don't know. Is that something that they can reasonably expect to convert? I don't know. But I think that the onus is on Overwatch League to do a job. So I'm curious to see. I'm legitimately going to ask him about it and see how it was, because he'll tell me if it was stupid or if he hated it or if he had no idea what was going on, but it was interesting. I think that's the most reasonable expectation for a lot of these people. Is like, hey, I didn't know what was going on, but it was interesting. Just like if I went in when I watched roller derby, like live roller derby for the first time a few years ago, and like I didn't know the rules, but it took me about 20-30 minutes to realize, like, oh, okay, these are how the rules work, kind of. And then it's like, and then when I got to the point where I'm like, okay, this person's gonna do this, and they do it, I'm like, okay, now I get it. It's like, oh, that person's button went off, he's probably gonna do an ultimate. Oh, there it is, there's the primal rage. Like, okay, like once that stuff starts kicking in, maybe there's things that Overwatch as a game can do to make that even more accessible. So to us, obviously, it's like super like, well, duh, obviously his meter went up to 100, it starts glowing, use the primal rage. But I think once people figure that out, that's when it really kind of clicks for them. So We shall see. But let's move on here to... I swear I have this button. Where is it? Oh, there it is.
It's news.
One piece of news this week, and it was a big one. The Philadelphia Fusion have announced the Fusions Arena. The Fusion owner Comcast Spectacor and Cordish Co., I don't know what that is, announced plans for the largest ground-up, purpose-built esports venue in the Western Hemisphere. The new 3,500-seat construction, named Fusions Arena, will stand in the Philadelphia Sports Complex, which we did get word, thanks to Darth Pootie Tang in chat for posting this picture. It is smack dab in the middle of exactly what you would think about the Philadelphia Sports Complex. You've got the 76ers and the Flyers Arena.
Wells Fargo Center, Lincoln Financial Field, and Citizens Bank Park are all there. That is all four major sports. Like Blevins said, the 76ers and the Flyers are out of the Wells Fargo Center. The Eagles are out of Lincoln Financial Field, and the Phillies are out of Citizens Bank Park. And now literally, it's like right in the middle of them. They all make like an L shape, and this goes right in the corner. It's looks beautiful. Make sure you guys check it out if you haven't. But yeah, it looks great and exactly like the kind of thing. And just I love the exposure of that, right? Because now all the fans for all four of these major sports are going to be going to their games, and they're gonna, what's in that building? What are they building here? Like it's going to have interest to them because of its location. So it's great that they gave the Overwatch League team that level of commitment, excitement, and just hype. I think it's just great for esports. It's great for Overwatch League specifically. And hopefully it's great for the Phillies. They've done a lot right with their franchise, and I hope this is just the next one of those major moves. And also play Fraggy.
Yeah. Please, please, please play Fraggy. You cowards. Speaking of teams that are not cowards, let's move on into
it's tournament talk.
Let's talk about the Stage 1 playoffs. We started out the first game of the playoffs. We had the match of the century, Seoul Dynasty versus New York Excelsior. The match where literally no one picked Seoul to win. They, of course, won 3-1 over the New York Excelsior. The Vancouver Titans win against the Boston Uprising 3-0. Let's pause and talk about the elephant or the giant golden tiger in the room. What in the world happened with the Seoul Dynasty NYXL match?
I think there's a couple things that happened here. We talked about this match, and I was very adamant, this came out on Around the Payload, on the flagship show, basically everywhere when there was a microphone in front of my face last week. I don't think the New York Excelsior are in the stage playoff business. I think they're in the season championship business now after not making it last year. I don't think their focus is really on the stage playoffs, but I can't give them a just carte blanche, free pass here. They're not exempt, because I also said I don't think they need to be in the stage playoff business to beat the Seoul Dynasty, and they were not able to do it. The biggest story to me, there's two big stories, right? There's the fun one, and then there's the, I think, really surprising one, which is to me that Mono got beat across the board badly by Fissure and by Marvel when he was in there as well. It was not particularly close. It was one of the worst performances we've seen of him this stage. And honestly, I don't remember him being beaten like that really last year at any point either.
No.
It was probably his worst performance in Overwatch League, and at a time when I don't think New York can really stomach to have upsets like this. It's fine not to win stage playoffs, but it can do damage to your psyche to be upset by the 7th seed like this, and in such a convincing fashion with a 3-1 scoreline. So that to me was the most surprising thing about the entire matchup, was just how bad Mono got beat. We said he looked like the best tank in the world this stage. Where was that guy? Where was even the shadow of that guy? Because it might have been enough to push New York over the edge. The fun part of this, you got my drop ready?
Oh, it's ready.
Nene, I hope you're playing it.
Oh, we're definitely playing it.
Okay. Yeah, he just is in the last fight on Rialto, the one that was decisive, and this all got it was reacted to, in my opinion, appropriately, because as a viewer, and I'm not your least educated viewer out there either, right? Like, it just looked like Nene threw the grav into the ground, and part of that is on the camera work. Not that they could have possibly in a million years done a better job of capturing this weird play, but yeah. So the Nene goes in, or Nene grabs into the ground. Okay, it hits nobody. The camera can't even find it. It has to like go into manual swivel mode and just look around to find this graviton surge. I'm looking in the kill feed thinking a diva must have eaten this thing, because where is it? And then it's just over there in the corner on the side in the hallway for whatever reason, right? And it's impossible looking at it from that angle and in the moment to really understand what happened, okay? And the one person that I think really kind of figured it out the fastest and was on it was Taimu. And that was, they were disadvantaged in the ultimate fight. EMP is the best ultimate in the game. They knew that, I'm blanking on who was playing the Sombra at the time, but they knew Sombra had the EMP and had it ready to go, and they were trying to avoid it. So the way they wanted to avoid it was solo grab the Sombra, kill her instantly, and move on. She has to either have a terrible EMP off in the corner while she's dying to a lone Zarya, or you miss and lose, and that's just unfortunately the way it went. So it wasn't like a complete fat finger like it looked like initially, and it took everybody kind of a minute to catch on to that. It's a weird strategy though, right? Like, how many times this stage have you seen just a Sombra get graviton? So your average viewer is not expecting that play. Your average viewer is not thinking that's right, even after it's told to them that was the plan. Well, that's silly, right? But no, thinking at it logically, I think it's correct, right? You do that. You trade, you trade your graviton surge to get the EMP, which is a much better fight-winning ability, and you give yourself a really good opportunity to go in and win the fight, because now your support ultimates are unlocked, your beat isn't useless, that sort of thing. So what was probably a smart strategy from New York goes wrong, because, and we got to see it from his perspective, because the new All Access Pass is great for that. So we got to see his perspective, and honestly, it was ugly. It wasn't great. You can see the Sombra. She does like decloak for a minute. He gets vision and he throws it, and it's not even particularly close. It's in the direction of the Sombra, but by the time it hits, the Sombra's way over there and didn't translocate, right? So it was an ugly, even if that was the play, I don't think it was a very good attempt at that play.
Right. Wasn't even executed, right?
Right. So it was just a flub overall, and Nene is at the center of it because he controls the ability. He used it poorly, and he missed. But everybody was very defensive of Nene, like, oh, he did so good all stage. All these things are correct, by the way. He's one of the best Zarya players. He's been a huge boost for New York. He also punted that map and sent what was a winning map situation to extend the series into you're done, stage is over, going home now, right? And he just, I mean, I don't know if you want to play it again or not.
Oh, I've been playing it periodically throughout this entire conversation.
So yeah, there's this whole conversation about, and pro players, I think, are really just on the wrong side of this. Like, oh, well, I guess since my followers are bots, I'll explain this to you. Or plat chat. Like, you don't get, guys, you draw a salary to like work 80 hours a week to prepare for this game. Like, of course you're better than all of us at analyzing what happened and what's going down in the fights. And, so I think they needed to step back a little bit. And also, you don't need to defend Nene here. He screwed up. Like, he made a mistake. He punted. He threw the grab. Was it a difficult grab to hit? Absolutely. Was the plan to grab the Sombra? Was he told by somebody else to try to execute it? Absolutely. But you know what? When a quarterback goes out there with 1 second left on the clock, down 6, and throws an interception instead of a touchdown, they're the scapegoat. They're the problem. That's the way this works. In sports, you're remembered for the plays you make, and you're remembered for the plays that you don't. Welcome to the NFL. Welcome to the Overwatch League, Nene. You're here now. You didn't just get to walk in on a high horse. And look at me, I'm on New York XL. I get a free pass. It didn't quite work out that way. He doesn't deserve quite all the grief he was getting, and so I think it's great that people were out there explaining what happened and helping everybody understand better. It just didn't need to be negative to the people that didn't fully understand it. And also, he did screw up. So like, you're just as wrong as the people that are thinking he's a bot and, you know, fat fingered it or whatever, because he did make a mistake. He should own up to it. He did in his tweet. He goes, that's on me, my bad. He's got the right attitude. It's like everybody else that seems to be wrong about it, myself included. I didn't know he was going for the Sombra. Somebody had to tell me.
Right.
And yeah, that's just the way it is. I don't know. What were your thoughts on the play watching it? I mean, obviously you had a different perspective than I did.
Think about how much of a god he is if he hits that play, right? Like, it's the 10 million IQ play. Right. Who even thinks like this? How, like, you have never seen this happen. You would never do this. This is how pro players think. This is just like galaxy
This is
brain.
why New York's the best.
This is why New York is the greatest. They're unbeatable. This is like all that. But it didn't happen. Right. And that's, I mean, it goes back to something that we've probably talked about. We've definitely talked about in like Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering, but like results oriented thinking. It's bad to be like that, especially in games like this. Like, did he make the correct decision? Yes. If he would have, if he makes that decision 100 times, maybe he executes it some percentage of time and looks like a god. It's not a high percentage play, right? But what was the alternative? You got to play to win, not play to not lose, right? Like, they could have saved it and played to not lose, and they probably end up losing. They probably end up losing a little bit slower than they did to the Sombra ult, like we said. But they still lose. This line of play at least gives them an opportunity to win, potentially. At least shows a glimmer of opportunity. Now, like you said, was it executed well? Obviously not. Was it the correct decision? I mean, we could go back and look at the tape and maybe find a different line of play if we watch it for hours. But in the game, in the game time decision, that's part of the game, right? This is why we're not running simulations of Overwatch where we go over 1,000 instances of the same event and pick the most optimal one. Game time decision. We see it in sports. Oh, why did this idiot make this pass? Oh, if he would have just backed up 5 more yards and thrown it slightly high, he wouldn't have gotten an interception. Okay, armchair quarterback, you idiot. You're not on the field getting tackled by 300-pound people. Now, granted, that's not happening in Overwatch League, but you're not on the stage with the pressure. You're not on the stage with the crowd yelling at you. You're not in the game given this platform of being on the NYXL where everyone thinks you're unbeatable and you're about to lose. You went down 0-2.
It's not your 5 best friends in the world that aren't getting their big payday from the, you know, like that sort of thing. Like there's pressure in that.
Absolutely.
As much as I don't think the organizations care about stage playoffs, I think the players are competitors and they go out there to win, and they practice the way they're told and they practice what they're told.
Right.
But they're on the stage. They care. They're trying
with
no exceptions.
Yep. And if they don't care, then they bench themselves in the playoffs. Fissure, sorry. Caught a little bit of a cold there. Also, screw Fissure for not benching himself against the NYXL. He should have done that.
He tried to. Soul wouldn't
But yeah, I mean, overall, they got outplayed. I talked about it a little bit. I didn't truly think it would happen, but you kind of saw it here. Soul, for whatever reason, has that like built-in and has had that built-in rivalry with NYXL, even if it's not like the big public one that everyone talks about. You can tell if you watch the matches, Soul versus NYXL, Soul brings a little bit of extra oomph to it. And I think they brought it even more here, and I think that they maybe, I mean, they knew exactly who they needed to beat, right? If you're Soul going into these playoffs, you're thinking, we're probably playing one match this playoffs, so let's make this the best match that we could. I would imagine they put absolutely no time into Vancouver Titans. I don't think that they could have possibly reasonably thought that they were going to win against NYXL.
Fissure had like a tweet where he like basically conceded about the Titans, and that might be a conversation we get into at another time. But like, as a sports fan, to me, I was like offended by that whole tweet. They're like, we're gonna get rewarded after we lose and all these things, and I'm just like, okay, Soul's broken. They're not winning anything this year. Like I wrote them off basically when I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, but for the sake of this playoffs, like you don't practice to play the finals until you win the first round, right? You have to win the first round. So they probably put all of their resources into NYXL. It paid off. And like you couple that with the fact that they play a little bit better internally against NYXL. You couple that with the fact that NYXL probably wasn't taking these playoffs as seriously. You can start to imagine how this happened. And also look like a better team. Like you said, I think it also boils down to Mono just got outplayed. So no, not making excuses, just kind of trying to rationalize what happened. And then really nothing to talk about with the Boston Vancouver match. That was a straight up wash. Moving on to the next day, we had Philly Fusion win 3-1 over the Atlanta Reign, and San Francisco Shock pulling out the 3-0 victory against Toronto Defiant. I'll kick it off here. The other story that we're going to talk about here, because there really is only other one story, is that, man, San Francisco Shock looks real good right now. And not just like they won their matches, okay? They looked good.
Well, why don't you read through the rest of the match scores? Because the first thing I want to say about it will just be a part of that.
Yes. So after that, we had Vancouver Titans 4-0 against Seoul Dynasty, San Francisco Shock 4-0 against Philly Fusion, and then in the finals of the Stage 1 playoffs for Season 2, Vancouver Titans takes it the distance, wins out 4-3 in the Game 7 match.
Yeah, so the big thing to me about San Francisco was obviously it's fine to lose maps to teams like Vancouver or New York if they'd gotten to play them, but they did not drop a map until Championship Sunday here in the stage playoffs. So they had a really, really impressive run, really made for some boring Overwatch. We were both rooting for Toronto in that match, so that was unfortunate. They took down the Philadelphia Fusion 4-0 as well, and then did just a phenomenal job against the Vancouver Titans, taking it all the way to Game 7. So the question that we're basically asking here is San Francisco that good? And I think we really need to look at what made them successful in this matchup. Predominantly, it was in large part to me Super. He was the really big difference maker in this matchup. Or in all their matchups this weekend. I was talking about last week about how he looked so much better, and he was really, really improving at a fast rate after they stopped cutting his playtime in half and, playing both of the tanks. So I thought his Reinhardt play was just absolutely superb, really kept them in the match against Vancouver, and elevated them to Championship Sunday. There was a bunch of other factors as well. I thought overall Violet had a very, very strong weekend. He had a bit of a rough start early in the championship round, but definitely rebounded as well and played really, really well for them. I thought Moth put up one of his best performances that I've seen from him from the main support position as well. His beats were just absolutely timely and super, super on point when he was...
Hey guys, Future Blevins here. We had some technical difficulties during the live recording of the show, so unfortunately it's going to sound a little bit weird here, but you'll kind of get the general gist of what we were talking about. Also, unfortunately, the video didn't really, it just stopped working, and it was a little bit of a mess moving forward. So for the YouTube viewers, no video for the rest of it, but we'll be back and ready for action next week. Enjoy the rest of the show.
So to me, the big story really here was San Francisco not dropping a single map until the finals or the Championship Sunday match against Vancouver. They did a great job going through, obviously, unfortunately for us, the Toronto Defiant 3-0, the Philadelphia Fusion 4-0. Their big story here was Super. I thought he just absolutely dominated this weekend. I talked about last weekend how he was showing a lot of improvement over the course of the stage, and I didn't really know where to put him in the tank tier list at the moment, just because it's been so rapid, so fast. And I think he just continued to skyrocket this weekend. His Reinhardt play was absolutely superb. He dominated Sato. He beat up on Yakpung really good and gave Bumper a run for his money. And Bumper is statistically #1 by a large margin throughout the stage.
In everything.
Yes, in literally everything. So yeah, I thought he was great and a big difference maker. Really, what kept them in it, kept them close in the end, and was a big part of their run the entire way. So big props to them. I think specifically in championship weekend, I thought Moth or championship match on Sunday, I thought Moth played one of his best matches that I can remember seeing. His beats were on point. I thought Violet struggled a little bit early on, had some ugly transcendences. Just kind of poor timing, looked a little nervous maybe, and just super, or not super, but Moth was there to kind of just provide the support ultimates at the clutch moments that they really needed in order to keep them in it despite some of those mistakes. So I thought those two were really kind of the MVPs. Obviously Sinatra's Zarya is top notch in Overwatch League as well. And all their players I thought performed great. You don't have a performance like they did this weekend without everybody playing pretty well. But Moth and Super were the big highlights for me. Not quite enough to take down Vancouver, but I don't think a lot of people really thought it was even going to be that close going into the matchup. We all probably even still feel a little bit robbed of not getting New York versus Vancouver. But at the end of the day, I don't even think that matchup would have gone to 7, right? Like one of those teams probably would have just had a beat on it or something like that. And I don't know that they would have really traded back and forth quite to the extent that San Francisco and Vancouver did. So never going to complain about a match that good, especially one that's broadcast on ABC for the world to see and really kind of gives a great showcase of what's going on. So congratulations to Vancouver taking home the Stage 1 championships. But the question really that we're forced to ask here, Blevins, is San Francisco that good?
Right.
I'm curious what your answer is here. Going forward, what do you think of San Francisco?
I think that their first week in Stage 2 is going to be super telling. Maybe not. They're playing against Los Angeles Valiant and Guangzhou Charge in the first week. If they come out and dominate, okay, maybe this is real. But even if it's close, it's like, so we saw San Francisco lose to NYXL, to Vancouver Titans, and also to Los Angeles Gladiators back in week 1. So I think they were kind of deceptively leveling up. Like after, like besides, like they've had a hard schedule. Like they lost those matches, but they've looked pretty good against most other teams. It's what is their like first real match? They're playing Guangzhou again in Stage 2 week 2. Really, they're playing the run back. They're playing against Toronto in week 3, and they're playing against Hangzhou again, who they won against 3-1 the first time. They are, I think, expected to win out their first 3 games in week 1 and week 2, and then week 3 they really start to see a level up here potentially in terms of competition. If they come out strong in the first weeks, I could see it being legit. I also could see like a couple of 3-1s, 3-2s. Maybe they lose a match against Defiant. I mean, I'm obviously hoping for that. I don't know. They really turned it up, but like they did something that I don't think we've seen NYXL ever do, which is really turn it up in the playoffs. Like NYXL almost does it the opposite, right? But NYXL has, I'm trying to think of a match where it really seemed like they went out, they turned it up more than they usually do. It always just seems like they're here, they're always great, but they're never like really, really pushing for it. Like Vancouver, like after they won that, they popped off. They went crazy. It was huge, a lot of emotion. You could see Vancouver like really turn it up and really go crazy. NYXL just kind of seems like when they win, they win. When they lose, it's whatever. They're never like, it never seems like they're scrapping for anything. Both Vancouver and San Francisco were really scrapping in this one, which is why I think it was one of the...
I don't know why I'm even going to say this. In New York's defense, when you're at the top of the hill, the story when it's close isn't that you were scrappy, it's that you almost blew it. Right? So even when people play up, it never, so it's really hard to have that kind of a look when you're just head and shoulders at the top of the standings always. Maybe we get that now that there's theoretically, at least in the meta, right? Like maybe we would have gotten that had it been Vancouver versus New York. I think having another team on their level would have done a good job of giving that storyline, but we'll never know because they choked. But yeah, listen, as far as San Francisco goes, I'm a little less optimistic than you are, Blevins. Obviously, I think they're going to be able to scoop up the win against the Valiant no matter what. But what was the first name out of my mouth when I talked about why San Francisco was so good?
Was it Super?
It was Super. What is Super very well known for? The hammer soaked in the blood of his enemies. Yeah, it's his Reinhardt play. So if we're moving into a meta where it's more Winston, it's more Orisa, it's more Wrecking Ball, I don't know that Super has that same carry potential. Right. I'm very excited to find out. I have a lot of hope the upside for this team remains the same, but could I see them taking a step back and maybe competing with Guangzhou? Certainly possible. Now, we'd be fools not to mention the amount of DPS talent that's going to unlock on this roster in the event that we get a meta like that. So there's Striker, like everybody, their whole bench, maybe except Baby Bay. Not that there's anything wrong with Baby Bay. He's just not really on the level of the rest of the DPS talent to me. Striker. But yeah, so it's going to be great to see, those guys again, and they might be able to elevate and maybe make up for a little bit of what Super drops. But it's going to depend exactly on how the meta shakes out. I know even in a meta that's very DPS centric, if your DPS play or your tank play is lacking, it can be a serious problem. Main tank is always a very crucial position. So we need to be very concerned. I think as far as San Francisco goes, I don't know that I can say Guangzhou is just a free roll win or I'll probably pick them that way the first time for San Francisco to win. But if it's even close, I think you need to wonder the next week, right? Because we saw Dallas and Shanghai had the run back, and Dallas won both of them. But it went from razor thin margin, map 5 win to 4-0 blowout in the course of 1 week. So it's very significant that something changes over the course of that 1 week. They're able to download the strats, figure things out, and I think that's something I'm going to be on the watch for. Obviously, Toronto, like you said, in week 3 is a problem. So I think San Francisco absolutely has the ability to be up at the top, absolute top of the middle of the pack right now. But I need to be 100% confident if I'm talking about putting a team up there with Vancouver, with New York, and what they're able to do in the regular season. I mean, the stage playoffs are over. We can throw it out. New York's back to being New York, right? Like we're back to the pressure's off. We don't have to worry about it for 5 more weeks, right? So if we're going to be talking about putting San Francisco there, I need to be confident in Super like I am in Mono in the regular season. And I'm not there yet. And I just think that's mostly because is Reinhardt still going to be good? Signs are pointing to no. We're seeing a lot of defenses on the streams of these players playing Orisa in bunker comps on defense and a lot more Winston and things like that. And maybe it's not even Super next stage, right? It could be Smurf, and then it's a completely different conversation. Is he there? What is his Winston play like? What is his Wrecking Ball in Orisa? They need to be able to answer all those questions, I think, before I'm willing to elevate them too far. But off the back of this performance, off the knowledge of how good their DPS players are that are currently on the bench, I think you have to kind of pencil them in for that top 4 at least, right? Like even if there's somebody else you think might level up a little more next meta, go above them, it'd be really hard to put them below 4 or 5, right?
I think you're right. You bring up a really good point of like this meta could potentially shift the entire team. And I think we lost Deathblow, but regardless, yeah, we did. Regardless, I'll continue here. There he is. Maybe he's here.
Should be here. It should be
here. What I was saying is, I think the team, this meta could potentially, especially in the case with like San Francisco, entirely change the team. It's going to change the actual players that are playing. It's going to change the importance of the same players on the team. How can you evaluate a team like San Francisco when they have Striker versus when they don't? Like, it's got to be a different team, right? At least in some ways. So it's really tough to rate almost any of the teams with this new meta until we actually see it and how they play it out with that being said, I'm still putting. I'm not putting San Francisco in that like S tier, which would be consist solely of New York and Vancouver right now. But I'm very confident in putting them in A tier right now. I also could see that changing very quickly. Like you said, Guangzhou is not by any means a gimme. And I'm not picking Guangzhou to win, at least in the first week, but it wouldn't be the biggest upset in the world if they did. So, yeah, I'm higher on San Francisco than I was, but for what it's worth, I was not very high on them beforehand. So
it's still a grain of salt. We've seen teams spike in stage playoffs before, do really well. We've seen patch teams before. You need sustained success over multiple metas to be considered elite. New York is, in my opinion, back to the only team at that level, even Vancouver. I'm sorry. So the stage was great. You're an elite GOATs team. Now show it to me with DPS.
You're an elite GOATs team, but you're not the GOAT team.
Right.
There's a episode title if I've ever created one on the fly. But yeah, that was stage one for us. Overall thoughts for how the stage played out, the new format, the stage playoffs, the new teams. What did you think about the stage overall?
I thought it was great. I was on record going into it. I like GOATs, having played it, knowing a little bit of the micro play that goes into it. I think it's great to see that at an Overwatch League level. I'm with everybody else. I'm ready to see Linkser again. I'm ready to see Pine again. I'm ready to see whatever team, whoever the pop-off DPS player you've been missing, Architect, Striker, Saya player, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm ready to see them again.
Flower, SBB, you know, just to name a couple.
All 7 of the New York.
Those
guys.
are those are just random ones off the top of my head. You know, they maybe were on the same
SBB
team.
wouldn't have grabbed the ground.
True,
but
true.
He would have been playing Tracer, but that's a different story, I guess. But yeah, so I thought it was great. I thought the stage playoffs was better than expected. I'm notably not a huge fan there, or super into those. But that finals was so hype. How do you not really have a good time with that? And just the upsets, the parody, the never knowing. It's a fun place to be as a fan and a content creator. So I have no issues whatsoever with the way any of it went down. But yeah, I think it's going to be good to get some change ups going and really show off more of what Overwatch can be than just tanks and healers. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think, honestly, this new format, this stage may have been the best stage of Overwatch League we've ever seen. I think, like you said, the parody is amazing. And even like the being able to drag out the storylines over the course of the season, because it kind of felt like, okay, stage one is almost like its own season. And then, like, it doesn't reset, but it does kind of reset. And, like, it's just playing out the same matches in a different order, right? And now...
The salty runbacks are interesting. Like, there's a lot to it. The short weeks were
the
almost
short weeks
fun.
Are nice. And, like,
kind of a pain for fantasy, but that's a different conversation.
I'm looking at it right now. Like, stage 2, we don't see it happen. I'm looking... When do we actually get to see the regular season match of Vancouver versus New York? The answer...
It's like stage 4, I think.
It is certainly not in stage 2 or stage 3. It must be stage 4, unless it just doesn't happen, which would be an oversight, and someone should be fired. But...
It's got to be stage 3. It wasn't stage 4.
Maybe I just missed it. No, it's literally the last. It's stage 4, week 5, rivalry weekend. New York Excelsior versus Vancouver Titans, which is ironic that it's called rivalry weekend because they literally had never played up until then.
It's literally the last day of matches of the season.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. Well, I was going to say it's nice to see that rival. It would be nice if they played twice, although I guess we knew that they weren't going to play twice.
Yeah.
But it would have been, I don't know, maybe that's the best time to play it. But the point I was making is, like, in season 1, it was like, okay, the rivalry or like the big names were London and New York. They played once in the regular season. They played in the stage playoffs. Okay, great. Run it back. Well, they played once in the regular season, and then I don't remember if London made the stage playoff. It doesn't matter. Like, it's the same thing. It's just in a different order. Now it's like we've got like difference in stages. We've got difference in weeks. It's a little bit, like you said, for fantasy, it's a little wonky, but I think as a fan and even as a content creator, it's better for us.
And they'll be great going forward because they'll be accompanied by road games, and we'll be traveling in a new venue.
Yes.
And there'll be more to it other than just 2 less days of matches, which is
Right.
the story of this stage. So.
Right. But yeah, overall, I say 2 thumbs up from me for stage 1 of season 2. I think they did it well. The our thoughts of the expansion teams are going to be behind was off for at least some of them.
For 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. We've got a lot of expansion teams doing well. We have some, but we've got everyone has a win.
Nope.
No, every team in Overwatch League has at least 1 win in their history.
Yes.
We have 2 powerhouses with others nipping at their toes, potentially looking to get up in that tier and being able to beat them. No match. No team seems like they can't possibly lose, even to themselves. I could see, obviously, NYXL can lose to other teams, to Vancouver. It's yet to be seen, but I believe that there are teams that can beat Vancouver, even that aren't NYXL, potentially. And we also, in GOAT's meta, saw literally every single hero get played in the first week. So I'm excited for a new meta, but it's not because I didn't like GOATs. It's because I'm always excited for a new meta. And I'm excited to see how Stage 2 plays out for Season 2. But anything else before we get going, Death?
That's it for me. Enjoy your week off.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Sorry for the technical difficulties during the live show. But remember, we are going to be going live, and we're going to be going off and then coming back very quickly for the live show for Foul Play. But that is going to be it, guys. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you check out highnoonpodcast.com. All of our links are there. iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, all that good stuff. Twitter, High Noon Podcast on everything. patreon.com/High Noon Podcast. Another huge shout out to Shrug Off for the big $10 Patreon. Thank you so much, everyone. But for Deathblow, I am the Blevins, and remember, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Okay, for Rivalry Weekend, I want to see NYXL play against the playoffs as a concept. I don't know how they're going to do it, but that is the greatest rivalry.
Just want to lose again.
Shut up! All right.
Now I want to find out if it was me.
If what was you?
The problems.
Oh. I don't know.
It was like the second time I hit my push to mute, and I just disappeared. Like that was it. Like my whole screen went gray. And it was similar to what happened the first time, but like the first time I like stayed up and it looked like you disappeared, and it was I don't know. It was weird. But now it's not doing it at all, so I have no idea what it was. Who knows? I just started clicking instead of using my shortcut if I needed to mute.
I don't know.
Who knows? All right, chat. We're gonna go away. Come back ready for Foul Play.
Yeah.